Hi everyone, welcome back to Release and Recharge Virtual Retreat. So my name is Risa, and I'm a yoga teacher, Ayurveda lifestyle coach, and the creator of the Eat Live Yoga approach. And today I'll be sharing a quick introduction to Ayurveda and a few simple steps to start integrating Ayurveda into your daily life, and which you can start from today. So just before I start, I just wanted to acknowledge and want to say a big thank you to Rebecca and Alex for putting together this amazing retreat and also for the opportunity to present, alongside 8 other incredible ladies. So thank you so much. And so I'm going to get started now and going to share my slides. So just one sec. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my slides. Okay, so Ayurveda. So what is Ayurveda? So Ayu means life and Veda means the knowledge. So it often translated to art of living or science of life. And Ayurveda is considered a sister science to yoga. And Ayurveda is 5,000-year-old traditional Indian system for health and healing. So people have been practicing this Ayurveda healing system for 5,000 years. So when you think about that, it's similar to yoga, but it's just amazing and it's just really fascinating healing system. So Ayurveda gives us the knowledge to identify our mental and physical nature and maintain a physically and emotionally balanced state. Whereas yoga gives us the technology, so that's physical practice, yoga asana, meditation, sound work, so that's chanting mantra, breath work, which is pranayama, and yoga philosophy to rebalance our mind and body to unlock our full potential. So Ayurveda yoga goes hand in hand. That's why I really love integrating Ayurveda and yoga both into my daily life. Okay, so every individual is made up of a combination of 5 elements. So that's air, ether, which is sometimes also space, and fire, water, and earth. And elements that combine in a human body form what we call in Ayurveda is dosha. So dosha is energies that circulate in a body. So there are 3 doshas. So there are vata, pitta, and kapha. And these each individual and also in the environments and any objects that you have around in your life, in a house, everywhere else, have all these 3 doshas in us. And when you talking about individuals or in human beings, they're usually one or more of the 3 doshas is predominant. So my dosha is vata pitta, so I have more vata energy in my body and in my mind, slightly more than pitta, but I still have quite a lot of pitta energy. So I have 2 doshas in me. So doshas are usually determined at conception, and this dosha that is determined at conception is called prakriti. So prakriti means nature. So these prakritis we often call as natural constitution or true nature. I like to call it more true nature. So that's your true nature. And because these your prakriti, your true nature, get out of balance over time through environments that you live in or society, also your diet and lifestyle, it can, and these all influence your prakriti, and that becomes your unbalanced state, which is called vikriti. And when you have all these doshas imbalances in the body and mind, it can cause physical and mental disorders. So there are a lot of dosha quiz like online that you can take, and you can discover your dosha. I have one on my website as well, but just be aware. So when you take these online quizzes, you can do either way. So you can answer all these questions from where you were growing up. So don't think about your kind of situation or your current state at this moment in life. But if you go back to where you were growing up and just think about what sort of body type you had, what sort of mental state you had, that's one way to take these quizzes. And the other way to take quizzes is when you think about all your imbalances you have at current time. So people often get confused when they take quizzes. They often take quiz from your imbalances that you're experiencing right now. And sometimes people say to me, "Oh, that is not me," or I get confused. So yeah, people do come back to me and say, "Oh, this is not my dosha. It doesn't sound like me," and vice versa. So just be aware when you take these quizzes, not classes, quizzes. So I'm just going to explain and talk you through each dosha type. So the first one is vata. So vata is comprised of air and ether or space, and vata means wind. So it controls the movement in the body and mind. So if you think about wind or air and space, it has lots of space, and it's just really lots of movement. And vata types often have all this spaciness and air in a body and mind. And each each dosha type have qualities, different qualities, and the qualities of vata are light, cold, dry, mobile, also erratic, rough, and subtle. So these are all vata type tend to have. A little bit about Vatta's physical characteristics. So Vata types tend to be naturally small built, often quite slim. They can be either quite tall or very petite, like really small, petite. And Vata type tend to have a tendency towards dry, thin hair or dry, rough skin. So because the qualities of Vata is dry, there's tend to have a lot of dryness in the body. And also, they tend to have low body temperature and poor circulation, so they often have cold feet and hands. I always have cold feet and hands. And they also have irregular appetite, so they tend to kind of just skip meals and go through the day without eating too much. So that's Vata, and Vata accumulates air, and again, because of the air element, um, they accumulate air in the colon, and it leads to bloating and gas. So Vata types tend to have very gassy, lots of gas and bloating. And also Vata types tend to have poor digestion, and lots of dryness in the body have often causes constipation. So that's characteristics of Vata type in a physical realm. And in terms of personality and psychological characteristics of Vata, so Vata types tend to be very creative, have many great ideas, and usually have several projects on the go, but they become really overwhelmed and very quickly, and they tend to never complete the project. So I have Vata in me, so I have I always have like all these great ideas, and I want to like really start get on with those ideas and starting new project all the time. But I get quite overwhelmed, and I don't tend to finish all the projects. So that's definitely me as a Vata. They also struggle with routines. but what they really need is the regularity. So they like to be spontaneous. They just like to do whatever they want, whenever they want to do. I have a little bit that in me, but I am quite organized because I have pizza in me as well, and I do love routines. Some routines I love. So that's kind of bit of personality and psychological characteristics of Vata. And in terms of imbalances, so when Vata get out of balance, they tend to get very cold. So they tend to have really cold body, um, and lots of dryness in the body, skin, and also hair. And they tend to suffer from constipation, gas, and bloating. And in terms of like mental, in terms of mind, they tend to get really fearful. They get anxious really quickly. So that kind of leads to sleep problem as well. They tend to have difficulty falling into sleep, and also they tend to have lack of concentration and focus. So that's the signs and kind of symptoms of Vata imbalances. So that's Vata type. And moving on to Pitta. So Pitta is comprised of fire and water element, and Pitta means the power of digestion or cooking. Pitta types control, so Pitta is the energy that controls transformation. So Pitta is responsible for metabolism, digestion, and nutrient assimilation. Um, and also, Pitta's energy, they're also responsible for digesting mental and spiritual level as well. So not just digesting food, but also digesting impressions, emotions, and ideas. So that's where whereas Vata types have all these great ideas, want to start projects, they want to, do all these things that they like to do. If you have a little bit of Pitta in you, or you need that Pitta energy to really actually digest the ideas and transform the ideas into the reality. So Pitta, so in terms of qualities of Pitta, so they are hot, light, penetrating, oily, and mobile. So whereas Vata types are cold in nature, Pitta types are have this hot energy. So Pitta types often get angry really quickly. So that's like really perfect Pitta example. If you get angry quickly, if you get hot in hot climate, that's definitely Pitta energy in you. So in terms of physical characteristics of Pitta, so Pitta types tend to have medium build, quite muscular, and they have fast metabolism, and they tend to be like naturally athletic type. They tend to have a clear, bright skin, but tendency towards oily, sensitive skin, and also hair. So because they have these oily qualities, they tend to have this quite lots of like oil in their body. Um, and that kind of leads to like acne and rashes and inflammation as well. And they tend to get like red accents in their hair and skin. So the Pitta types, especially if you're like have Pitta imbalances, they tend to have like really red face. Also, they have really warm hands and feet, really opposite to Vata, but they get really hot very quickly. So it's kind of weird for me. Like I have cold hands and feet, but I do get hot quite quickly as well, and kind of get that anger. I have this like, yeah, I get angry quite easily as well. So that's like a funny combination of Vata Pitta types. Um, and also they have strong appetite and thirst, and they get really irritable if they skip meals. So whereas Vata types can go without meals, having food throughout the day. Like pizza types really need to have regular meals. And also they tend to have high blood pressure as well. So, and then in terms of personality and psychological characteristics, so Pitta types tend to be very ambitious, driven, and they love challenges, and they really thrive in competitive environments, and they're very organized people and very structured, love structure, and they're always on time. So if they have meeting or anything, they're always on time, even like few minutes. They will join a few minutes before. So they're a very organized person, and they also have high standards and sometimes have unrealistic expectations of others, which can lead to judgment. So they can be very judgmental as well. And I kind of mentioned it earlier already, but they get really irritable and get angry quickly. And so if you have pitta imbalances, they tend to be really, they tend to get really hot and have hot flashes and inflammation. They also have loose or frequent bowel movement, and they tend to get acid reflux, ulcers, or cold sores, so anything to do with kind of inflammation, and obviously short temper because they get angry quickly, and they are prone to judgment to others, but also to themselves as well. So they're like constantly criticizing themselves and judging, and also they become overly competitive when you have pizza imbalances, and they get really jealous quickly, and also they have perfectionist tendencies, so they need to be yeah, they just need to be right all the time. It needs to be perfect all the time. So that's kind of overall pizza types. And moving on to kapha. So kapha types, so kapha consist comprise of water and earth element, and kapha means what sticks. And kapha controls cohesion and stability. So you need, as I mentioned earlier, you do need each of these dosha in you to balance, but what happens is people tend to have one or two predominant doshas. So kapha is a stability, so it stabilizes you. So it's the qualities of kapha is heavy, cold, humid, and stable. So kapha has this heaviness qualities, because kapha has that water and earth element. It's just like really grounding, really earthy energy. Um, so kapha's physical characteristics. So kapha types tend to have larger body frame, heavy bones and muscles, and they tend to have really these like abundant thick oily hair. So you might see kapha types with like really wavy, really thick hair, like really beautiful hair that I really admire because I got really fine thin hair. um, and they tend to have cold moist skin. So Vata types have cold, dry skin, but Kapha types have cold, moist skin. Because of that water element in them, they tend to have moisture in their skin, even if it's cold. And they tend to gain weight easily as well because of that water element. Um, and also, they do tend to get poor circulation as well, and they tend to have low constant appetite and very slow digestion and metabolism, and that kind of creates really heaviness in them, and they tend to have lack of energy, they tend to feel sluggish, and they also have tendency towards emotional eating as well. And in terms of personality and psychological characteristics, so cover types are very loving, caring, friendly, and very calm in nature. So pizza types need that kapha friends to really have that grounding, loving energy, because pizza types get really fiery. So um, yeah, so pizza and kapha, they should become friends to like balance each other out. And they tend to be very compassionate as well, and just really easygoing nature. They tend to be very emotional, romantic, and they tend to cry easily as well. They have good long-term memory, and they can be traditional, and kind of in their behavior. So they can be traditional, a little bit conservative in their behavior and also in their beliefs. And they have a strong sense of attachment. So they tend to have difficulty letting things go. They don't like change. They tend to not like change. They like to have certain ways and don't want to change at all. Um, so that's kapha types in terms of personality. And if you are experiencing kapha imbalances, they tend to have very cold skin, and loss of appetite and hunger is really common kapha imbalances. Weight gain is another common kapha imbalances as well. And as I mentioned earlier, like feeling of heaviness and sluggishness. And they might also suffer from like fatigue and lethargy. And because of this water element, they tend to get blocked sinuses, like runny nose, blocked sinuses, um, because of that water element. And also they tend to have lack of mental clarity when they're in out of balance, and they become like overly like strong sense of attachment as well. And depression is another common imbalances for kapha types. So whereas vata, uh, they have anxiety and like feeling of fear, kapha types tend to get depression rather than anxiety. And they tend to kind of withdraw from social activity as well. So that's kapha types. So hopefully you have like some ideas you might fit into maybe one or two dosha types. Feel free to just drop in the comments what dosha you think you might be. That would be great. And so what I wanted to discuss next is kind of this is like my kind of my philosophy, my approach, um, which is called Eat Live Yoga approach. Um, so yoga starts from your kitchen, and this is a quote from my yoga teacher, who I trained with in India, in Rishikesh. So I studied yoga and Ayurveda from him back in 2019. So his like famous quote is yoga starts from your kitchen. And what he taught us is that you can fully benefit from yoga on its own when your mind and body are not nourished and balanced. So Eat Live Yoga kind of came from this biggest learning in my yoga and Ayurveda journey. So I believe that when you integrate all the pillars, so Eat Live Yoga pillars, into your daily routine according to your unique dosha, that's when you feel energized, fully connected with your true nature, and you're able to start to discover your dharma, which is your life purpose. So I truly believe that understanding your dosha is so important. But what I want to say is that don't be too kind of get attached to your dosha as well. So you need that kind of fair balance of understanding your dosha, understanding your kind of tendencies, but not get fully attached to it, because this Ayurveda is a lot more than just dosha. When people start studying Ayurveda, they get too attached to their dosha and their tendencies, and they forget everything else. So just a little kind of awareness around that. So that is kind of my philosophy that kind of derived from my yoga teacher in India. Okay, so today I just wanted to kind of share like simple steps that you can take to like really integrate Ayurveda into your daily life. These are really simple steps, and what I kind of say all the time is like, just knowing these steps, you can like start to become an aligned and empowered self healer. So Ayurveda is all about having that knowledge to really practice in your life so you can become your own healer. So Ayurveda is all about living in harmony and in tune with nature. So this is what I really love about Ayurveda. I'm really passionate about sustainability as well, and Ayurveda really encourage that. So one thing that if you want to take away from this session today is just Ayurveda is all about living in harmony and in tune with nature, and that is just a simple thing that we can do on a daily basis. But in this modern life, we tend to forget that. If you live in a city, I live in London, and although I have lovely garden that I'm looking at it right now, but you kind of tend to forget all this nature around you when you're busy working, when you're just commuting back and forth. Although we are in lockdown in the UK, so I don't need to commute, but we tend to just forget, this wonderful nature that we already have. So here are my top 5 tips to become aligned and empowered self-healer. So step 1 is to eat seasonally and locally produced food from sustainable sources. So that is living in tune with nature. If you go to supermarket, you probably see all the vegetables from all over the world, and many people don't know what's actually in season, what is actually produced locally. So becoming more aware of seasonal vegetables and fruits from your local area. You can go to local farmers market, or you can look on the internet where your nearest like veg box scheme. So we are signed up for this veg box scheme from our local farm, and we get vegetables delivered every week, and we can see what's in season and what is growing right now, and it's just really nice way to know what's in season, and also supporting our local community, local small businesses as well. So that's kind of my passion for sustainability kind of come here, as an Ayurveda as well. And step 2 is to have your biggest meal in the middle of the day. So I didn't go through this in today's session because we only have half an hour, but each time of the day have a different dosha as well. So the middle of the day is pitta time. So if you remember, pitta is a king of digestion, and that's where your digestive fire is at its peak. So having your biggest meal in the middle of the day is very important. And also, if you can go for a short walk in nature to aid digestion, and that would be a bonus as well. So you want to connect with nature while you're digesting food. That's like amazing way to digest your food. Step 3 is having an early light dinner before 7 p.m. and go to bed before 10 p.m. So the reason that you want to have biggest meal at noon is so that you can make sure it's digested by your dinner time, and you really want to have early light dinner before 7 ideally, so that you can go to bed earlier. So you got nice 8 hours sleep if you can. I know it's a little bit difficult if you're parents, but the idea is to go to bed before 10 p.m. and you want to have that 3 hours between your dinner and bedtime. So that's again, it's about living in tune with nature. You don't want to be still working after 10 p.m. That's when people supposed to be in bed because it's dark outside. You don't want to be stimulating your mind after 10 when it's dark outside. You want to be sleeping and digesting all your food and all your memories and your impressions, your ideas during that time. So that's step 3. And step 4 is eat and live according to your dosha and imbalances. So there are two like really important concepts in Ayurveda. So one is like increases like, and opposite decreases each other. So I talked about different qualities each dosha have. Um, so you just want to bring these concepts in when you're eating and living your life. So when you are experiencing imbalances, you always want to bring in opposite quality to that imbalances you have. So, for example, if you are Vata and you tend to have feeling lots of anxiety, lots of fear in your mind, you want to bring opposite quality. So you want to bring more earthy, grounding energy of Kapha, and trying to ground yourself and really connect with earth. So that's kind of one example of applying this concept. Or if you are Pitta and you have this hot quality, inflammation in the body, and you get really hot, and on top of that, if you're living in hot climate, what you want to eat is cooling food to really uh, balance that energy and qualities. So you don't want to be eating hot, spicy foods if you're pizza, and if you're living in hot climates, that's just going to aggravate pizza even more. So you want to apply opposite quality by eating cooler quality vegetables or fruits, and make sure that you're wearing cooling clothes, cooling environment. If you need to put aircon, if you need to fan, so that's another example of applying these concepts. So that's step 4. And step 5 is practicing yoga according to your dosha, imbalances, and seasons. So I'm Vata Pitta, and I used to love all this dynamic, fast-paced yoga. Um, I used to go to these dynamic classes 3 times a week, 90 minute session, and I used to love it. But I felt really, really good, like either during the class or right after the class. But I was still really tired, like on a daily basis. I was like, oh, never had energy, and I was always wondering why I'm practicing 3 yoga classes a week. I'm moving my body. I'm doing meditation, but I was still feeling like not quite right. And when I discovered yoga, Ayurveda, and studied deeper into Ayurveda, I realized that Vata shouldn't, I don't want to say shouldn't, but Vata types already have this air and movement energy in them. So it's better for them to not have this dynamic movement all the time. They need more grounding, earthy yoga practice. So my practice now is like really slow. I hold each yoga pose for like 10 to 15 breaths, like really grounding, earthy yoga practice. And so practicing yoga or any exercises for that matter, according to your dosha and imbalances and seasons are very important as well. So that's 5 tips, 5 steps that you can implement into your daily life today. I think I'm kind of running over time now, but if you have any questions, please DM me on my Instagram, or you can visit my website, risakawamoto.com. Thank you so much, and I'll hand over to Helen for breathwork now.